Hello gang, welcome to Challenge Your English Next Sex, Cat and Natch Advanced English section. Today we're gonna learn, of course, Module 1, Part 2, to continue the rest of the module, right? Okay, so before we start it, I would like you to remind for a little bit, just a little. Okay, if you're not sure about the vocabulary or if you want to extend your vocabulary, you could look back to the back of the textbook and you can have the grammar practice and you can have language summary and vocabulary practice at the back of the textbook. And of course, there is also the tape script according to the each audio file. And I would like you to say that if you want to improve your listening skill, when you're listening to the audio tape script, you should close your eye and listen in silence. And when you're not sure about what they say, and at the time, you could open up your mind and you can see what the tape script is about. All right? Okay, so that's it. All right? So let's go study. Okay, so we're gonna listen to the Dr. Jennifer Shanking, and she will be talking about the English as an international language, and she gonna give about her agree or disagree for the idea we have studied the previous practice, and she will give you the reason why. So we have to write them down about her ideas. Okay, listen up.
Unit 1, Recording 2.
I've come to King's College London to talk to Dr. Jennifer Jenkins, who's a senior lecturer in applied linguistics. Now, Jennifer, you're quite interested in the teaching and learning of international English. Can you explain in general terms what this is?
It's based on the fact that nowadays the majority of people who speak English around the world are non-native speakers of English. They've learnt it as a second or subsequent language. They use it to speak with each other, and therefore they're not really learning what's always been called English as a foreign language, English to speak to native speakers of English. They're learning it for more international communication, and that has all sorts of implications for the sorts of things that they need to be able to do.
So what would be the main differences between the kind of English that's widely taught around the world today and perhaps what you describe as a more international form?
Well, there'd be various differences. There'd be differences in what they need to be able to do when they're pronouncing English. There would be some differences in the grammar. There'd be some differences in use or not of idioms.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that's widely taught when teaching English that would be missed out in international English?
Yes, I think, for example, that there doesn't seem to be much point in teaching learners to say the th, the th and the sounds, because most of the world's learners of English, speakers of English who are non-native speakers, don't pronounce a th.
And what is the thinking behind the idea of international English?
Well, there are two things. One is that the more different groups of people around the world speak English, the more important it becomes to make sure that they have enough in common so that they can understand each other, that they're intelligible to each other. And here pronunciation is very important because their pronunciation is the thing that will vary most among different speakers of English. And the second thing would be that now that English is spoken as an international language, nobody owns it anymore. The native speakers of English don't own it, and so don't have the right to expect everybody else around the world, when they speak English, to conform to native speaker ways of speaking, that everybody has the right to develop their own ways of speaking English.
So what would you say are the advantages for students and teachers of this form of English?
Well, one advantage would be that they actually have rather less to do, rather less to learn, because instead of trying to learn the entire way of speaking of a native speaker, which is incredibly complicated, and most learners never do achieve this in any case, so they've got less to do, but they're also allowed to keep something of themselves in their English. They're speaking English as say, a Japanese speaker of English, or an Arabic speaker of English, a Spanish speaker of English, and therefore they are allowed to be themselves in English.
Right. And how do you see English being learnt and spoken in, say, 30 years' time? How do you feel it will have changed?
Well, the English that's being spoken internationally, I think, for example, will have no longer, say, British-based or American-based idiomatic language, because this is not useful for international communication, so that will have gone. I think that quite probably the nouns that we call uncountable nouns, like information and so on, will have become countable nouns for international use. I expect in Britain we'll carry on talking about information as a piece of information, but quite possibly the rest of the world will be saying 3 informations without treating it as an uncountable noun. I think quite likely the third person singular S in the present simple tense will have gone for international use. I think in pronunciation, I think the th sound will have gone, and possibly the sound as well. Most learners will say, instead of the, will say a th or a t, as most of them do anyway at the moment, but it would just be legitimate then.
There must, on the other hand, be students who will want to speak English the way that they perceive it to be spoken in Britain or America. And so what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, I'd want to explain the facts to them, the fact that they are the majority, that the non-native speakers of English are the majority. And having explained that, and also the fact that they're much more able to express themselves, who they really are, their identity in English, if they keep something of their background, of their mother tongue, I would then say that we can't patronise learners, that if learners still want to learn to speak as closely as possible to a native speaker, say of British or American English, it's their choice. And the important thing is to give learners choices so that they can make up their own mind what it is they want to do.
Well, Dr. Jenkins, thank you for talking to me about that. It'll be interesting to see how far things change.
Okay, after we listen up about what she's saying, okay, so let's go to number 5A. Dr. Jenkins mentioned the following language area in relation to the international language. Have you had problem with any of them? So the problem we heard about, what she said, was the first one is pronunciation of p. Of course, she mentioned it. And secondly, we can hear about the British and American idiom. So what about them? So did you hear clearly about and uncountable nouns like information? What are the differences right now for the global English user? Did you remind of them? The last one is the third person in the present tense. So, okay, at, s or es in the third person mode. Okay, so we already know that we don't use s or es in I or you thing, but in the third person mode, like he, she, it, we add s to the verb for the singular verb. So what about them? So you gotta check out. Alright, and the 5B is about you should listen again. So what does Dr. Jenkins think may happen to the language area in exercise 5 as the international English develops? So, alright. So here we go to the number 6A. What comparison discussed? Do you agree with Dr. Jenkins? And why not? So this is about you. So you have to provide your agree or disagree for her statement by giving a reason, of course. So has she made you change your mind about any of your answers in exercise 3? So I think she and we could share some ideas about learning English, and agreement, of course, the disagreement upon them. So what are they? So you need to provide with the reason behind them, of course. Alright, let's go to the 6B. Walk in groups and interview your teacher about the issue. First, think of at least 3 questions to find out what he or she thinks. Then take 10 to ask your questions. So it is about the interviewing. The most common problem what we share when we learn in the foreign language. So you have to interview and you have to think of firstly 3 questions to find out what about their idea. This is about the group wars. Okay, so you can skip with this, but here to remind is you can of course share your ideas with the AI by yourself, and you can also find out what can be our strength to learn when we approach to learn the foreign language as the English as global language. Alright, okay, so pattern to notice in the box. Let's see. Introducing a point in an argument. Alright, when we argue something, we can introduce our points, our ideas in this way. So we gotta listen first. And the first one is track 1.3. Listen to the way points are introduced in the interview and complete the sentences. How do the introductory phrases help the listener? So we can hear the introduction point for the argument, so we have to fill in the gap for the phrases to help, of course. So listen up and fill in the gaps.
Unit 1, Recording 3. 1. Well, there are two things. One thing is that they're intelligible to each other. 2. The second thing would be that nobody owns English anymore. 3. One advantage would be that learners have less to do.
Alright, I think you can get well with the introductory phrases. So let's go to the number 2 again. Here are some similar way of introducing points. Decide which is used for the introducing points for an argument. What could be either. So you can see 3 columns. And the first one is one important thing. And then in the second section we can see point to consider is that, and that is a sentence connector. Let's see to the second. Another strong reason for what would be that, and you can express your idea, your statement, of course. And then thirdly, we can see the most obvious drawback or the advantage of your statement might be that that in the third column we can only see that is that would be that might be that is a sentence connector to express what your idea to initiate it. Alright, and then we can also see the second problem or concern issue with a further consideration, the main explanation. These are the most helpful initiator for argument, as I say. Let's see below the box. There are a couple of examples. The first one is the most important issue is that many people use English online. And the next one is another problem is that there are so many varieties of English. Okay, these are the point they would like to introduce in an argument. Okay, to express your argument as an initiator. Alright, so let's go to the number 7 in your right hand side. So right now that is about the arrangement. Put the words in the bracket in the correct order to introduce the rest of the sentence. Okay, you can see the sentence structure that are not in order, so you have to rearrange it into the order, of course. So you can see 1 to 4, and you can try it by yourself. Alright, so number 8 is decide whether the point below are for globalization or against globalization or neutral. Then introduce each one using an appropriate phrase. Okay, the first one is blank people are more aware of other cultures and ways of life. Second, blank, a lot of small businesses cannot compete with big multinationals. Number 3, blank, there is a lot more choice available in shops than there used to be. So 4, blank, there are a lot more opportunities for the people to travel and walk abroad. Number 5, blank, big multinational companies have a lot of power. Number 6, blank, a lot of local skills and the customs are disappearing. Number 7, blank, we all recognize the same music, celebrities, brands. Okay, according to this statement, as you can see, we can find out these are for globalization or against globalization or just a fact, neutral fact for the globalization. So according to the these terms, what introducing initiator could be appropriate to start with it. So you can find it and you can choose what is suitable initiator for them. All right. Okay, let's go to the 9A. Instruction is like this. You're going to answer one of the questions below. You will have 30 seconds to give your answer. Spend a few minutes preparing what to say and use editory phrases to make your point. Okay, in this part of the practice, the most important thing is you get used to with the editory phrases. Okay, so let's find out what are the questions, and you will have time, of course, by yourself, and you have to practice by yourself to think fast and answer fast kind of situation. Okay, so let's find out what are the questions about. The first one is, will English remain the global language of the future? Why or why not? Okay, interesting. Number 2 is, should each country or region try to preserve its customs and identity? How? I think we should preserve our customs and identity, like sharing and educating custom from the different kind of platform and different kind of competition to sharing through the generation. And of course we should allow through the modification and also the to get the new version from it. Yeah, I think this is the way to preserve its custom as well as to widespread throughout the generation. Number 3, should people be free to live whichever country they like, or do they need immigration control? As a free-spirited human, I like the mobile living, so of course I agree people should be free to live in whichever country they like, but we need immigration control. Of course. Control is just like the discipline, so we need kind of immigration control and not to be overcrowded urbanization. Yeah, that kind of control is really need. It's a must need. Right, and number 5, how do you see your city, country changing in the future? What would you like to happen? Actually, I would like to happen is like more nature synchronized society, and of course kind of solar punk society. And I would that term not only the theory but also the practically. Yeah, people should use the eco-friendly energy, reusable energy, and should reduce the carbon emission, of course. Yeah, this is the way I would like to happen. Number 6 is this, is the more globalized world a good thing? Why or why not? Globalization makes more closer to other culture and people. That's the good thing. But of course, if there is a good thing, there could be a bad thing that follow with the good thing. We should be aware of bad things and to prevent not to get worse. Okay, number 7, is it good things to have so many large multinational corporations in the world? Multinational corporation really has a big impact on the society. When you view from the good things, that is the good thing, but according to my philosophy, sometimes the multinational corporation deliver the opportunity for the local businesses and small businesses should also have the opportunity, like less tasks and borrowing money to initiate the businesses kind of thing. Yeah, just an idea is popping in my mind. So that kind of thing should be happen for the small businesses, like not to get swallowed by the big corp. Yeah. Number 8, should richer countries do more to help poorer countries? If so, what? Of course, especially for the education and transportation, they should also preserve for the resources they get from the places. Yeah, that is really important thing to do. Okay, so let's go to the next page number 12. Okay, on this page we get to do task about giving tips on the learning a language well. Alright, So here we can see about the preparation, about listening and the reading. Number 1 is about the listening. We gotta listen. Track 1.4. Instructions are like this. Listen to the 7 high-level language speaker talking about learning strategies that help them or someone they know. Make notes about the questions below for the speaker. So we gotta listen about 7 language speaker and they will tell you about their strategy when they learning language. So we gotta make notes for the below question. So let's see what the question is about. The first one is which languages were being learned. The second one, what strategy does he or she describe? The last one is in what ways did it help? So while we are listening to it, we gotta make note for each language speaker. Alright? You ready? So listen up.
Unit 1, Recording 4. 1.
This maybe isn't the most original way, but I think I really improved my English when I watched films and TV programs with the subtitles on. The subtitles help you to, of course, understand better, but you don't feel like you're really studying a language. You just feel like you are enjoying a film with drama or romance or murder, and it's just like enjoying yourself, and it's not like you're learning anything.
2.
I'll tell you what I'd say, actually, and this is something that I've done myself. I went to learn Spanish in Argentina, and I found the thing that helped more than anything was doing a class in tango, guitar. I play guitar. And, you know, you go in the class and you're not thinking about learning the language. You're thinking about the instrument or, you know, whatever the class is that you decide to take. And somehow it seems to sink in a bit more. The language actually sinks in rather than if you're focusing on grammar or whatever. And just, you know, playing the chords and learning the vocabulary of music, I found that was absolutely fantastic, and I'd recommend that to anyone.
3.
This sounds a bit weird, but a friend of mine told me that the best way she found to learn English, or to improve her English, I should say, was to try and think in English whenever she could. So when she was by herself, walking down the street or on a bus, whatever, she'd look around and try and describe in her head what she could see. Then she used to also imagine conversations she might have with people in the future, or imagine a conversation with a friend or something in her head. And I think sometimes when she was by herself, she used to talk out loud to herself even. So she was doing all this practice all the time, just by herself in her free time. It sounded pretty clever to me.
4.
When I was 19, I think, I went to England to become an au pair and learn English. And the best thing about this was if I was ironing or hoovering the house, for example, I would put the radio on or YouTube or something like that and listen in the background. So I have all the time the English language going in to my brain without really thinking about it. I think it's best if you don't concentrate, if it goes on, you know, in the background. It's really helpful.
5.
Well, I've always believed that learning a foreign language, you have to communicate constantly in that language. So I would always say, you know, get yourself a girlfriend from the country of the language you wish to learn.
6.
Well, when I lived in Poland, I was never very extroverted as a person, but when I first came to England, I realized that the only way that I would get better in English was to just talk to everybody. So I made myself have conversations with people I met on the street or at a bus stop or shopkeepers, even people in the cafes. Some people, they weren't always very friendly, but lots of people actually are, and they're very polite, especially the older people.
7.
You know what I do to keep up my Spanish is I just go online regularly and read the news websites, all in Spanish, of course. And I choose to read about something I really am interested in anyway. I just find that's more helpful. So I may be reading about, in my case, I love football, so I'd be reading about football or maybe business and something I'm interested in anyway. And it's just so much easier to read in a foreign language if you're interested in what you're reading about. And it's great for your vocab, and it sort of just reminds you about what you already know.
Alright, after we listen up, we gotta go to the number 2. It's about reading. Read the profiles. Then walk in pairs and summarize the needs of each language learner, which, if any, of the strategy in exercise 1 are relevant to each person. So when we read the profile, we got a link with the strategy that we have listened in listening section. So we got a link with strategy to the profiles to get help from the strategy. That is what we have to do with the number 2. So let's read about the profile. Take a look to the right hand side. Language learner around the world. The first one is Adriana from Buenos Aires. Studied English for 9 years at school, but has never had the opportunity to use the language in real life. She has just been offered a job with an international company and has been told that she will be using English on a daily basis to answer the phone, to communicate with the English-speaking colleges, and to attend meetings in English. She is very anxious as she doesn't feel that the English she learned at school prepare her for the aspect of her new job. She has 2 months before the new job starts and plenty of time, but not much money. So here is her situation. So we got a link with the strategy that we have listened. Okay, so let's go to the David. David is 26 years old and qualified as a chef, but cannot find a job in his own country. His girlfriend has found a job in Germany. David has joined her there and they are staying with some cousins for a few months while he finds a job. He learned German for several years at school but has forgotten a lot of it and needs to improve his communication skills quickly before he can get the kind of job he would like. He doesn't have much money to spend language sessions. Alright, so let's go to the next page for another profile. Okay, that one named Karen from Jordan is planning to do a master's degree in the business studies at an Australian university in a couple of years' time. His English is fairly good and he is attending a special course in academic writing to help him with essays in English. But he needs to be able to read in English much more fluently, and to do this, he needs to improve his vocabulary dramatically. He will also have to understand lectures in English and, of course, communicate and socialize in his everyday life. Okay, for Karen, what strategy would be perfect for him? Think about it. And the last one is Asha. Asha studied Russian for the 5 years at school in London and spent 4 weeks on a study exchange in the program in Moscow. She understands, speaks, and reads Russian pretty well and is keen to keep it up and improve. She is sure that it will be useful to her one day, although she is not exactly sure how yet. She cannot afford to pay for expensive lessons at the language school and is busy with a demanding university course. Okay, so the last one is Akiko. Akiko is 33 and from Tokyo. She has just moved to San Francisco with her husband, who has got a job in a company there. She has started English lessons, but they mainly focus on the grammar and the vocabulary. And as she studied English for 8 years at school in Japan, she already knows a lot of this in theory. The problem is that her listening skills and spoken English are not very good. She would like to get out and get to know people, communicate with her daughter's teachers and friends, and even perhaps study. But she really lacks confidence in English. People think she's shy, but this is not really the case. So here we can see the Akiko situation. She have a lot of language barrier to communicate through daily life basics. So we gotta find out. After reading this, let's go back to the page number 12 again and let's see what we have to do with the practice. Next session is speaking. We gotta speak, right? So in number 1, walking groups, think of your own useful tips or a suggestion for the 5 language learners in the pictures. Alright, ask your teachers for any words or phrases you need. Okay, in that way you have to think of the most useful ways to overcome the situation, to get through the language barrier for each person. Alright, so after that let's skip number 2 and go straight up to number 3A. In 3A, we gotta do is walk in pairs and discuss the questions below. Alright, in these questions, which learners in the profile do you have most in common with? So which person do you share most common challenges with? So you have to think about the first one is your motivation. What motivates you to study English? Secondly, you need to think about your jobs and study needs. That means the necessity for your own things. And the third one is the skills you want to develop most. What skill would you like to improve most? Yeah, you have to focus on it. And then lastly, your strengths and the weaknesses. So you need to think about yourself, analyze your weakness and strength to improve and to get through it. Alright, after that we can see another question there. The first one, which tips and suggestions that you have discussed might you help you? And the last one is, do you have any other plans for improving your English? Okay, so among these questions you can reflect and you can get your own ways of speaking, ideas to improve your speaking skills. That's it. Okay, and let's see the number 3B. Choose the 2 tips from your list to actively follow. Among the suggestion and tips, which one do you think is more suitable to follow? And after the few weeks, report back to the class and how you're progressing. In that way you can analyze which way it is better to improve to learn English. Okay, so let's go to the next page again. So let's find out the useful languages to convey for your speaking. Discuss the tips and the suggestion. We can see the sentence initiator to speak about. The first one is one that I think is very useful. Is I think he would benefit from. He needs to concentrate on. Her mainly priority should be. She needs to find a way of. This approach wouldn't work for everyone. I think it really depends on the kind of the person you are, and you can add up that is a gerund which one is work for you. In the section B, describing your own needs and targets. One thing I'm good at is which one? One of my worst faults is that I never, and then my main aim is to, and then blank is one of my main priorities because add up your reason. For that reason, I'm aiming to, okay, from these in sentence initiator, you can convey your ideas to show up your needs and the target. Alright, let's go to the next page, page number 14. Okay, this page we gotta focus on the writing and it's about a report. Okay, so let's check number 1A. Walk in pairs and discuss how many global brand cafes or restaurants can you think of. So it's about the brainstorming for your ideas to come up. How many global brand or cafe or restaurant can you think of? Alright, let's think about it. And let's go to the B. Which, if any, of the cafe and the restaurant from the exercise 1A do you sometimes visit? Okay, how often do you visit? All right. And next question is like, what tradition food do you cook or eat at home? This is another different question. This is just about the traditional food that you cook or eat at home. Yeah, let's think about what we're gonna do next. Let's see. In the 2A, read the report on how the globalization has affected eating habits in Warsaw, Poland. What aspects of the report are true of your town or local area? So this is gonna be start with the reading session. Alright? Before we read, we can see in the passage like there are gaps like from 1 to 9, and I guess we gotta fill in the gaps with the linking words from the number 2b. So I wish to check the linking words first. So before we read it, just take a look to the number 2b. Choose the first linking word or phrase to complete the gaps 1 to 9 in the report. More than one answer may be possible. Okay, why don't we take a look? And after we read it, we could fill in the gaps according to the gaps, right? So number 1 is as well, also, to, so you could complete it appropriately. And the number 2 is although, despite, even though. Number 3 is as well as, apart from, also. Number 4, as well as that, other than that, apart from that. Number 5, on the other hand, although, even though. Number 6, just, alone, only. And number 7, while, whereas, and nevertheless. Number 8, even if, although, and however. And number 9, this means that, this is because, and this explains why. Alright, so we could see there are 3 kind of linking word for each gaps, and we could complete more than one answer. So let's read. Okay, introduction. The aim of this report is to describe how globalization has affected eating habits in Warsaw and to consider how or whether traditional ways of eating have been affected. Global brands. Globalization is having a big impact on eating out in Warsaw. A significant number of the global brand coffee shops and fast food restaurants, such as Starbucks and Subway, have sprung up in the last few years, and the vast majority of the people have no objection to using them. It should blank be noted that there are now many themed global restaurants, such as Hara Cafe. Blank, all these places traditionally seen as quite expensive. Many people visit them on a regular basis. Foreign restaurants. Blank, an interest in mostly American global brands. It is generally true that Warsaw's residents are becoming more international in their tastes. Plenty of bar malesny meatballs still exist, offering cheap, nourishing Polish food and a reminder of life as it used to be. But blank, there are now restaurants offering food from many different cultures, including Indonesian, Brazilian, and Indian. The food is frequently impressive, but blank, the service can be disappointing. A fact mentioned by a significant minority of the tourists on the travel websites. Most young and middle-aged people eat out in an international restaurant at least once a month. Eating at home. Poland has a tradition of the high-quality, home-cooked food, and this is one aspect of the Polish food culture that doesn't seem to be under threat from globalization. Blank, a small minority of the people eat ready meal at home. Blank, most people claim to know how to cook traditional foods such as pierogi, dumplings. Conclusion. In conclusion, it appears that blank, globalization is changing the way the people eat and drink when they go out. Warsaw's residents are still proud of their traditions in blank. The culture of home-cooked food is still very much alive there today. Alright, after we read it, we just take a look to the prize number 3 on your left-hand side. Design which features applying to your writing reports. So we gotta write reports and we have to add the features according to the reading the passage. So what are they? Then try to add more of your own. Alright? Let's take a look to the bullet. The first one is the informal language. I think we shouldn't add the informal language for writing the reports. And we can see an introduction and a conclusion. Of course, we could see the introduction and inclusion in the above report, so we have to add it. And then clear and simple headings, of course. And the last one is use of the word I. Yeah, we must not need to add the word I. Yeah, this is the report and this is not just about you, just about me. This is, the report, so we mustn't use. Let's go to the 4A. We are going to write a report for the Lifestyle magazine on the efforts of globalization. According to the courses of the Module 1, we already thought and discussed about what are globalization and what are the side effects. And now you have to write a report for a Lifestyle magazine on the effect of globalization, as it say. So you are going to write a report. Alright? And the expression as follows is walk in the groups and discuss whether the ideas in the World Web are true of your hometown or country. So you could reflect back and discuss with the questionnaire, with AI, or you can search according to the Google or some kind of website, or you could survey around your hometown, anything like that. And number 4B, choose one of the topics in the World Web and think about how globalization has affected your town or the country in relation to this topic. Note down your ideas. Alright, we can see under this instruction like this, attitudes/beliefs. We'll know a lot more about how people think in different countries. Okay? So we gotta choose the topic. Let's take a look to the middle of the page so we can see the globalization effects on the area. Like the first one is the walk and study, more international companies, and the next one is increasing need for English, and third one is people working longer hours. And the second session we could see the culture or the entertainment, more international restaurants, more American or international TV, cheap goods from abroad. And the last one we could see for attitudes and belief. In this session, people more tolerant and the teenagers more Americanized, and the last one is more international news. So you should focus one of these label and you have to write down how globalization affects our hometown, of course. Okay, let's go to the next page. Number 5 is about write a sentences using your notes from exercise 4 and the phrases in the table below. Alright, so we already written down about the notes for how globalization affected our hometown, and we gotta write the sentences by using this phrase in the box. We could see the vast majority of, about blank percent of, many, not many of, very few of, a small or significant minority of. Alright, these boxes all about a quantifiers initiator. Okay, in the second box we can see the people from my hometown, local residents. I think this is just the categories of mentioning what kind of people. In the second box we could see it is generally true that it seems or appears that it's obvious that evidence suggests that these are really good initiator to mention your notes into a sentence. Alright, there is growing interest in, there are more and more. Okay, so let's go to the 6A. Organize your sentences from the exercise 5 and the headings. As in the report exercise 2A, the main body of your report should have at least 2 sections. So you should divide into the 2 sections, and of course we have to organize our sentences from the exercise 5 and this heading. Okay, and the last one is then write the first draft of your report. It's just about writing report. It's not finished yet. It's just step by step by following each practice. All right, and the 6B, Here we go. Look at the checklist before and think about how your report can be approved. Swap reports with a partner and see if he or she agree. So you should ask for the idea from the AI, of course. Then write the final draft on your report. Okay, so why don't we check the question first? The first one is, does your report have an introduction and a conclusion? That's important. Alright, next one is, does the introduction mention the aim of the report? What is your purpose of your report? You have to figure it out. And then thirdly, does the conclusion summarize the findings? And the conclusion, we have to summarize. Alright, and the next one, does the main body have at least 2 headings? So according to this format, the main body should have at least 2 headings. Okay, and the next one, is the style appropriate to a formal report? So you can check your report by uploading in the AI. Of course, you shouldn't copy from the AI. You should ask for the suggest, or you should check your passage out if it is okay, right? If you really want to improve your report style, right? And the next one is, have you used plenty of linking words to tie the report together? Okay, so we need the linking words to tie the report together. In that way, that report seemed very nice to get influence on the reader's mind. Alright, so take a look to the right hand side. It's about the listening. Variety of English. So we gotta listen. Right now, track is 1.5. Listen to the 4 radio news report from around the world. So we gotta listen the radio news. Alright, and where does each one come from? And what is the main event being described? So we gotta figure out where it is and what it's about. Okay, listen up.
Unit 1, Recording 5. 1.
The main news today is, of course, the weather as Hurricane Georgina approaches the East Coast, forcing tens of thousands of people to evacuate the area. Businesses along the projected path of the hurricane have closed early, windows have been boarded up, and all flights into and out of the area have been suspended. The storm has also caused a sharp drop in share prices across the world as markets respond to the fear of substantial damage to the U.S. economy and disruption to trading. Analysts fear that the cleanup operation could cost over $15 billion, although this is still much less than the $100 billion in cleanup costs and damages that Hurricane Katrina cost in 2005.
2.
Japanese firm Toyota has announced that it's to create 200 new jobs at its factory in Derbyshire. The factory has been manufacturing cars for over 25 years, and the cars produced there are sold all over Europe. Local people have welcomed the news, with MP Rita Perkins calling it a vote of confidence in Derbyshire and its people. On the same day as this news, however, local firm Mulkins, which manufactures cutting tools, announced that it was to close with a loss of 150 jobs. Mulkins has struggled to export its goods to foreign markets in the face of strong competition from abroad.
3.
A new report into the attitudes of Australians towards climate change suggests that while the vast majority of people think climate change is happening, there is a lack of agreement about the causes. Many still refuse to accept that climate change is the result of human activity, with a third of the people questioned believing that it's part of a natural process. The other 2/3 believe big polluting nations such as the US and China are mostly responsible. Together, those two countries produce over 12,000 million tonnes of greenhouse gases a year.
4.
Over the past few days, queues of people have been forming outside an old colonial building in South Mumbai. They have been queuing, believe it or not, for a coffee. Last Friday, Starbucks opened its first coffee house in India in Mumbai's historic Elphinstone building. 2 more coffee houses in the chain are scheduled to open this week. Starbucks already has around 20,000 branches in more than 60 countries, so in some ways, the only surprise is that it's taken them so long. Not everyone, however, is happy at the prospect of Western brands entering the Indian market, and independent retailers have been holding rallies against them.
Alright, after we listen up, let's take a look to the 1B. So it says listen again and note the key numbers on the statistics. I'm sure you already listened up about the key numbers and the statistic, but are you sure you're write them down exactly? If you don't, you should listen it again, like it says. And walkie pairs and compare answer say how each story relates to the globalization. So you have to discuss, of course. And the number 2, the full reporters spoke the American English, British English, Australian English, and Indian English. What differences did you hear between the full varieties? That's the interesting thing. You have to analyze and figure that out. Okay, so let's go to the 3A. It is also a listening session 2. Okay, let's see the instruction. Pronunciation: listen and compare the pronunciation of the different variety of English. You will hear each phrase below twice. Can you hear the difference in the pronunciation? Why don't we check out?
Unit 1, Recording 6. 1. American English and British English. A.
All flights into and out of the area.
All flights into and out of the area.
B.
Share prices across the world.
Share prices across the world.
C.
$15 billion.
$15 billion.
2. British English and Australian English. A.
Sold all over Europe.
Sold all over Europe.
B.
A vote of confidence.
A vote of confidence.
C.
Announced that it was to close.
Announced that it was to close.
3. Australian English and Indian English. A.
The vast majority of people.
The vast majority of people.
B.
Part of a natural process.
Part of a natural process.
C.
12,000 million tons of greenhouse gases.
12,000 million tons of greenhouse gases.
4. Indian English and American English. A.
Scheduled to open this week.
Scheduled to open this week.
B.
20,000 branches.
20,000 branches.
C.
Not everyone, however, is happy.
Not everyone, however, is happy.
Okay, after we listen to the tape script, I'm sure you could hear the differences in the pronunciation, or maybe you could a little bit realize about their accents and their pronunciation, of course. And as a reminder, of course, we are Myanmar and we should also have our own style of saying English. Although we are using English as a foreign language, so in somehow we have to imitate the way of speaking English in the style, of course. But someday, maybe we could invent our own ways of speaking English. Alright, so let's take a look to the number 3B. It's about the listen again and repeat. Can you imitate the pronunciation of each variety of English? Yeah, this is about the shadowing. You can listen and you can imitate the way they sound English. Alright, so let's go to the number 4. This is the last part of this module. We'll compare and discuss. Which accent do you like best? As for me, I like American accent, and right now I like Australian accent. Australian, mate. Okay, so anyway, I think I have got my own accents, so this doesn't matter. So which do you find easiest to understand? Yeah, think about it. And which are you most likely to come into contact with? Okay, this is according to your situation and environment, of course. Let's see the black box below the number 4. After Unit 1, you can discuss urbanization and globalization at a sophisticated level, and introduce points in an argument using appropriate phrases. Thirdly, discuss the best way of the learning language and describe your own learning needs. And write a report. And lastly, recognize different varieties of English. I think in this module we can express our own idea by different kinds of way according to the initiators and phrases in an argument. And this module is focused on mainly the two titles like in urbanization and globalization. Of course, we could know more vocabulary about these terms. So how about you? I hope you guys get well with this module. Alright? Good luck and see you in the next video and next module. Bye bye.